It was very, very toxic. And we were awful to each other. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes.
The DEP lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
I'm a performer.
What's up guys, Enigma here, and I'm a qualified body language analyst. And today we're going to be reacting to Karen Hurd's latest car crash. This interview that she did on national TV. I honestly can't fathom how thick this woman is. Like, you keep thinking you've seen the worst, and then she comes out and takes it to another level. Still, it's good entertainment for us. So let's dive right in.
There was another trial. Handled it dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out. Really important pieces of evidence kept out. Done differently, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
Some evidence is admissible in a UK court that is not admissible in a US court. Do you think that maybe he just had better lawyers?
I will say his lawyers did certainly a better job of distracting the jury from the real issues.
For some people, they just were frankly disgusted by the whole thing and don't have much sympathy for either one of you. Can you understand that?
Absolutely. I would not blame the average person for looking at this and how it's been covered and not think that it is Hollywood brats at their worst. But what people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that.
I mean, Amber gets one thing right, only that there is only one brat that really comes to mind when thinking about this case. Look, the important thing here is that Amber is basically saying that any jury put together is automatically biased, and therefore the only fair way to run a trial is to get rid of the jury entirely. You know, the people whose job it is to weigh up the evidence and decide what's true and what's not. Anyone who doesn't believe Amber's super obvious lies is automatically biased and must be removed from the process. If she lost to a judge, she would be claiming that the judge was biased and that it should have been held in front of a jury. I mean, there's no logic to this. She wants to go from 12 independent people deciding to just a single person. It has no logic or reason to it whatsoever. The whole world can see this. As for her body language, she's interlocking her fingers and occasionally rubs them together. This is commonly associated with insecurity and a lack of confidence. Compare Amber to the interviewer and you will see a huge difference. The interviewer has her hands neatly poised one over the other. This is commonly a sign of someone who's high in dominance and feels in control.
This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation, and that was the issue in the case.
Yes, exactly. You can't go into, the free speech does not protect you if you go into a crowded theater and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks. My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom to speak. It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke. And I spoke it to power, and I paid the price.
Please cut it with the victim playing. The whole world got to see your numerous lies exposed repeatedly with numerous independent witnesses, might I add, coming out to testify against you. You lied to power and you paid the price. Actually, no real price at all. You committed perjury and you're still walking out free, which I personally think is a disgrace. Amber should be in jail right now for telling numerous lies under oath and under conspiracy to destroy a man's entire reputation. It seems that these Hollywood folk can commit horrific acts and get away scot-free. It's so wrong.
In the closing arguments, the DEP lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. I'm the performer. I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
The Depp team argued that you were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it. When you're living in violence and it becomes normal, as I testified to, you have to adapt.
You say you were responding, but there is evidence. There are tapes in which you acknowledge hitting. There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes. They were first leaked online after being edited. What you would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
So now she's saying that violence becomes normal. So she's directly admitting to doing something violent to Johnny. The evidence shows that Johnny was never violent or abusive in any way towards Amber Heard, and the court case made a point to highlight this. Johnny has never been found to be violent or abusive, but here Amber is admitting to being violent. There's also a 3-hour-long audio recording showing Amber saying that she was the one to start the fights. So what can we take from this? Amber is the abuser. That's the bare bones of it. She was the violent one who would hit Johnny, and she admits to being violent right here in this interview. I think Amber must have finally cracked or something, as she's just saying all the wrong things.
But I am looking at a transcript that says, he says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context. But you're testifying and you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but when you're living in it.
But then there are other times, there's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips, or the transcripts of them, are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Could your side have just put the whole 3 hours in then?
I'm not a lawyer. As I testified to, I was talking in those recordings as a person in extreme amount of emotional, psychological, and physical distress.
He
And
says
it
he
doesn't-
never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
So when this interviewer is exposing Amber for being the abuser, Amber does what's called a pacifying behavior. She rubs her legs, which is the way our brain releases the buildup of stress. This is controlled and regulated by the limbic system. This shows that Amber is feeling super threatened and insecure here, which indicates that she knows that she's being seen for the abuser. If you are innocent, you get angry and want to prove your point. You don't get afraid or insecure. The biggest tell to a liar is that they pacify straight away when questioned on something they know will expose them, or has the potential to expose them. We see it with serial killers being interrogated, and now we're seeing it here. Also, she makes no sense again here. She says that she will admit things that she doesn't mean, and take the blame because she's being abused. Then why is she admitting that she can't promise she won't physically assault him again? Surely threatening to assault someone isn't the best way of helping protect yourself when you're afraid. Again, Amber's making no sense.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names. I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as the person who sat there.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways. I have so much regret. I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, right and wrong. I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was. And it was ugly and could be very beautiful. It was very, very toxic. And we were awful to each other. I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. But I've always told the truth.
I sincerely doubt that. Notice how she refuses to call all the witnesses liars directly. She knows that she can get in trouble for doing that, so she just keeps quiet. Instead, she just attacks them as being Johnny's slaves of some kind, bending to his every will. You saw this throughout the whole trial. There were a huge number of independent witnesses who came out and exposed Amber's lies, including friends of Johnny, other celebrities, or even just random people that saw what happened. The only defense that Amber has for every single one of these is that they're all somehow manipulated by Johnny into saying what he wants. She insults them, she belittles them, she says that they're only testifying to seek personal gain. This is a very common narcissistic trait. Amber seems to fit most of the traits of a narcissist very well. She's manipulative, she projects, which means to accuse someone of something you're doing out of fear or to compensate. She never takes responsibility, and I would say that she gaslights too. I mean, she's basically gaslighting the whole public by throwing around these lies. It's so ironic how she says in this interview that she hates the public can see this, yet jumps at the chance to go on primetime TV to talk about it. As I always say, Amber Heard is the final Karen boss, and she's been defeated. Or so we think. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.